Olympics. When the USA
Miracle.
team made their
that
their
right?
run.
The Miracle on Ice.
I remember sitting on the couch watching that, and I'm like, I want to be a hockey player.
Is that right?
I don't know what to do. Right?
Yeah.
We don't have anywhere to go,
Yeah.
right?
So that was back in the days, in where they started coming out with the rollerblades. And I
Right.
remember when I got my first pair of rollerblades, I'm like, I'm well on my way.
So who's your favorite team, NHL team?
Back then, I didn't really have one.
Oh, yeah?
We had the Houston Arrows
Right.
growing up.
Right.
It
But
was
Right.
Minnesota North Stars when you were a kid, and then they moved to Dallas later.
Yeah,
right?
to Dallas, but
Yeah.
we never got to Dallas. But
Yeah.
so we had the Houston Arrows when I was younger, so we went to a few of those games.
Yeah.
But you watched it on Fox back in when they had the glow puck.
Right, that's
So
right.
Just
Yeah.
watched it on that, and I moved to Phoenix, and that's when the Coyotes moved there back in the day. And I was a season ticket holder for the Coyotes, and obviously one of the reasons why I came to Boston was because of the hockey and
That's
Bobby
great.
Orr.
Now, was it just sort of the love of the game and the action that fascinated you with hockey?
Absolutely. Growing up in Texas, you grew up and you did two things. You played football, and then you played football.
What position did you play in football?
Well, I was a linebacker, safety, and I also was quarterback. But I was quarterback because I was the baseball player who could throw.
Right.
I was not a good quarterback. I was pretty quick, and I was pretty.
You were the third
pretty
down
tough.
guy?
Yeah.
I was third down guy all the time.
But I'll tell you, Keith, you're the right size for a hockey player. You got the right build for a hockey player.
Yeah,
People
what-
tell you. Pete's a hockey coach.
My build's a lot buildier than what it used to be.
So you're a Bruins fan?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So we got a good young team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be going to. Will you be seeing Keith Falk at the Boston Garden this year?
Absolutely. We moved into the building attached to the garden. So
Did you really?
Oh.
Oh,
It's,
no,
it's
you're
a
on,
very, it's a
you're
very
on
short
campus.
walk.
You're
We've
on
already been to a
games.
game, and
That's terrific.
when I was up here last year after they opened up the Warrior Ice
Yeah.
Center, I'd go and watch the pregame skate or the morning skates and stuff. So.
Really?
That's a nice
Oh,
facility.
you're a diehard hockey fan.
Well, I am a diehard hockey fan, and being retired is sometimes there's a lot of spare
Even
time.
better. Even better.
So we start with Keith's career. We'll start in 2003, where you pitched for the A's. You were the Rolaids Relief Pitcher of the Year award, right? So is that really where all of a sudden Keith Falk was as far as the public? That's where your coming out party was.
Maybe to the public, yes. Because I played 6 years in Chicago,
Right.
And had some pretty good
And
years
the 2
there.
years previous, you were the closer for Chicago.
Yeah, so I put up some very good numbers there, but I don't want to say that the White Sox are a small market team, but you didn't make a whole lot of noise. We only won the division once, out of those 6 years. So if you're not in the postseason, it's hard to get national recognition.
Right.
Everybody in the league knew who I was because by then, I was dominating pretty much everybody.
Didn't you lead the league in saves one of those years?
Well, in 2003, you led with 32, right? And
I think he had
That would have been
34
no, it would
with
have been
the
more
White
than that.
Sox.
I'm
He
not
had
a big
more than
numbers guy.
that. Yeah. He had more than that with
and
the
then you
White Sox.
pitched in the ALDS against the Red Sox in 2003.
Yeah, and obviously that turned out great
Enough
for the Red Sox.
But obviously, the Red Sox liked you enough that in 2004
So-
they signed you.
Yeah.
So, question on because you were not always a closer. You did sort of late game, set up 7th, 8th, and 9th. Is
Yeah.
that right? We hear a lot about the different mentality that it takes to be a closer versus an 8th inning guy or a 7th inning guy. Is that true, or is it just a matter of when you're pitching?
It really depends on the individual. I never referred to myself as a closer. You'd never hear me say, "Hey, what position do you play?" It's like, "Oh, I'm a closer.
Right.
I'm a bullpen guy."
Right.
It really all started. I came up as a starter, got to the big leagues as a starter. When I got traded from the Giants in '97 to the White Sox, the White Sox were making changes, so they brought up all their young starters. So they said, "You know what? We're just going to put you in the bullpen for now." And so, and then '97 comes along, '98. Basically we started talking about starting again, and the staff, GM, and Jerry Manuel, the manager, says, "Hey, you kind of screwed up a little bit. You pitched well out of the pen."
Too good. Too good in the pen.
And I never left.
That's what you get for doing a good job.
Yeah. But in 1999, I might as well have been a starter. I threw like 100 and some odd innings, and I could have been. I should have been closer probably in that closing role earlier, but I was on such an incredible run that coming in for the 6th, 7th, 8th, get to the closer, Bob Howery. that manual says, hey, we can't afford to take you out,
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's
you were
what-
an old school closer. You were used to pitching multiple innings,
Oh, I
really
wanted
all
to-
your career.
I wanted to pitch every day if I could.
Old school.
Yeah.
Not every
Yeah.
day. I'd love
Yeah.
to take Sundays off. Kick back, enjoy the sun.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's just they come in with a clean inning,
Yeah.
just the ninth. That's all they do.
So after
No one on base.
2003 season's over, you get courted by Brookline's own Theo Epstein.
Yeah.
He actually had, that was the Vin Baker years, guys, for the Celtics.
Yeah.
We're very dark
was
years.
rough.
The
And
microwave?
yeah. So he came to a game. Theo took you to a Celtics game, right?
Because the Bruins were out of town.
Yeah, and that's where all the buzz was that night. Of course, nobody was watching the game. They were just terrible.
Yeah.
But Keith Folk was in the house,
Yeah.
and it was a big recruitment thing. What brought you to the Red Sox? Was it more than money? I mean, was it? I mean, the idea of winning a World Series?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, money always helps.
Right.
Well,
'cause-
you're coming out of one of those the Moneyball team, the A's, right?
yeah, I mean, that
Billy
was
Beane
definitely
doing his thing there.
Yeah, the movie was based on, I think, '02, the year before I got there.
Yeah.
Right.
But, they still ran the ball club the same way. They tried to, use their formulas to get wins on the field for as cheap as they could. But, you bring up that night when we went to the Celtics game, I didn't know what to expect, so Theo and I walking in there, and all of a sudden we keep walking down and walking down and walking down. And I'm like, oh my, I started to get nervous. And, people start to, obviously they recognize him, and it was in the press that I was coming to town. And next thing you know, it was a timeout, and next thing you know, everybody's standing up hollering and all this
Oh,
stuff.
that's great.
We're sitting on the, right behind the timing table and all that. So it was a great experience. And, yeah, I mean, I remember sitting there listening to Gary Payton, bitch and moan the entire game.
Oh, is that right?
I was like, these.
Yeah, that was a bad team.
That's all
Yeah.
he did was,
Yeah.
But that was what started it. Seeing that fanfare and that hype. The love they have for the team. Fast forward a little bit, I get home, and I'm in my closet one day doing whatever, and all of a sudden my little BlackBerry buzzes. I'm like, I'll get that later. Later on, I check my messages. Bobby Orr.
Cut it out.
Called,
Did they really have Bobby Orr
because
calling?
I told
great.
them, I told the Sox how big of a fan I was, so they presented me with the Bobby Orr jersey when I flew back home, and so he called and he basically told me that winning in Boston is unmatched anywhere. Still gives me
That's a
little
great
chills
story.
kind of
That's a
talking about
That's a
it.
great story.
But yeah, he's like, hey, it can be a rough time if you don't do well, but if you succeed, you'll be remembered forever. And obviously,
Yeah, you did.
13 years later, we're sitting here talking.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
So Theo is smart. Theo is good.
pulled
He
all
was
the right
even good
strings.
back then, right?
He pulled all the right
Dave
strings.
Roberts just stole a base, and he'll never pay for a drink again in this town.
By
All
the
right.
way, that's not true.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
We pay for beers all the time.
When did that stop?
Probably when I put on about 60 pounds. People don't recognize you anymore. No, we still get plenty of stuff for free, but yeah. I always laugh when people say that.
All right, so 2004 starts. Now, was there a lot of complaining early on? I mean, Grady Little had gotten fired. They had a new manager. Obviously, a lot of crap had hit the fan at the end of the 2003 season. How did you feel any of that as a new player, or was it just baseball players clean slate each season?
Well, fortunately for me, Tito was with me, or we were together with the A's.
Right.
So coming over with him, obviously having a manager that is familiar with you, you guys are comfortable. That made things a lot easier. But also, one of the things, my philosophy on being a player is, I didn't pay attention to the media. I didn't read the hype. I didn't read this, watch TV. I don't watch Sports Center and all the news or the talk radio. And so obviously there's hype. I'm not stupid, but when you don't invite stuff like that into your life, then I don't deal with it. I was a baseball player at the field. As soon as I rolled out the gates, here I am. It's Keith just going down the road on the motorcycle, and I'm in my own world.
There's always been a lot of talk about that team. It was a particular group of personalities, sort of mavericks, people like you just did their job, warriors. You had just such a collection of personalities on that team. Do you feel, when you look back on that, do you think that was a key to being able to succeed that year?
Absolutely. And the thing is obviously we got tagged later in the year about being the idiots, which, that was Johnny's thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But, got to that team, and I think I was 31 at the time. I was one of the younger guys on that team. So
Veterans, yeah.
So I mean, you're talking, Kurt Schilling and Manny Ramirez and
Right.
and all these guys. So everybody was well aware of what happened the year before. The guys who were there moved on. So it's not like we sat around and saying, Mike Timlin saying, "Hey, Folky, man, I'm glad you're here because we need you."
Right.
You're still talking to professional athletes.
Yeah.
They know they didn't get the job done.
Right.
The breaks didn't go their way, but we didn't sit there and talk about 03. 03 was done. Once you get to camp in 2004, and we were still at the old complex by then. It's everybody's ready to move on. The year's done. Like they said, spring training, everybody's in first place.
All right, so you get to the ALDS, you guys sweep the Angels. So you think you're going into the Yankee series? You're thinking we're on a roll. We've played well in August and September. Did you think that you ever, in your wildest nightmares, go down 3-0?
Well, no, obviously you don't go home and dream about, God, man, I can't wait to be in the hole.
Especially that third game.
It's it just happened.
But you were playing well.
Yeah.
What happened in
But-
those 3 games?
But being part of a veteran crew is the fact that it's like it's literally one game at a time. It's an old saying, but it's literally one game at a time. Well, all of a sudden we got our tails handed to us for 3 days.
3 straight 1 games.
And it's and by the time that happened, it's like everybody sits around and you're like, okay, we got 2 choices. Both of them are good. You win, you come back and play tomorrow. You lose, you pack your bag, you go home, your family, you start, you do whatever you do during the wintertime. So it's not the worst thing that's going to happen. So it's like you go out there for game 4 and everybody just relaxes, plays their thing. All right, win game 4. All right, screw it, let's do it again tomorrow. Go out and win game 5. Now we go out for game 6. That's when you can start to tell that the tides have definitely changed a little
Yankees
bit.
calls were getting a little tight.
Yeah, and obviously we go out there and win game 6, and Johnny goes out game 7, puts us up early, and by then it was pretty much nail in the coffin. But we were fortunate. We got the breaks we needed. And how close were we when Robert stole second base?
Yeah.
I mean, every time I watch that play, still
It's
I'm like,
amazing.
oh, and I still think he might be out. We were mere inches from.
It was over.
From I don't know who would be sitting here today.
And a Hall of Famer on the mound, too.
Yeah. And Dave Robert. Well, first of all, Kevin Millard to take high fastballs for a walk. It's like, oh wow.
Yeah, right.
I didn't see
right.
that. Roberts comes up there, steals second, and Billy Miller is one of the guys who was always able to take pretty good swings off of Rivera. So things worked out. We play a ton of extra innings, and David does his thing, and the pitching stays relatively solid, and move on to St. Louis.
What was
That had to be something else.
Yeah, Big
man.
Papi. Were you guys sitting in the bullpen just saying, "What is happening?" Have
Yeah.
you ever seen a guy in such a clutch situation time after time come through?
Well, that's one good thing about that team is the fact that obviously David did a lot of big things in the innings to get to help us win games or get us to extra innings, whatever it was. But everybody did their job, and when a player came up in a situation where he had a chance to succeed to make a huge stride in the series, they came through.
Yeah.
There's David. We played solid defense. We got solid pitching. After game 3, our pitching was pretty solid
Yeah,
for the rest of the
rest of the way.
the playoff run. So, David gets a lot of the hype, but as a group, the guys, everybody did their job.
Well, you're being humble. What's a guy need to do to win a trophy? This
You
guy
should have been the
pitched.
MVP in
He
this
pitched
thing. Look,
5
I
games
agree.
in the ALCS.
I agree 100%.
Pitched 5 games in the ALCS.
All 4 games.
No, 5 games he pitched in the ALCS. Did not
Yeah.
give up a run. But talk to me about the situation. It's game 6, 9th inning. Now you've walked 2 guys in the inning, right?
What?
I'm just a messenger here. You walk 2 guys in the inning. There's 2 outs, 3-2 count. Tony Clark, former Red Sox, is up, and it's a 3-2 count. And so, what are you thinking at that point?
Well, I'm thinking, God, it'd probably be a great time to get him out. But it's funny you mentioned that. I don't remember walking the first 2 guys of the inning.
Oh, it was the lead. Oh, I didn't realize it was the
don't-
lead guys. Okay.
Yeah, but at that point, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty tired once we got to that point in the series. I pitched quite a bit, and I was nowhere close to being as sharp as I wanted to be. But it comes that point, it really is. It comes down. It's me against you. and I'd faced Tony for my entire big league career. I faced him in Detroit, and he took me out of the stadium. So it's one of those things that nothing I'm going to do to him is going to surprise him.
Right.
So it comes down to where you're just trying to make a pitch, and like we were talking about beforehand, the thing with the Yankee Stadium is the big left center. So my philosophy as a pitcher is I'm going to try and pitch you to the big part of the ballpark.
Right.
I'm going to try and stay away from that, the short porch in right field. So, I just remember, I think it was a high fastball. I was trying to, if I could get it by him, good, but if not, try and get a pop up or whatever. But, I know in the back of his mind, when he sees something going away from it takes him a split second because he doesn't know if that's, 90 fastball, if it's 78 changeup. So, whatever it was just that little hesitation.
Yeah,
I
he
was
couldn't
able
sit on it,
to get
yeah.
it by him.
So Chris Sale apparently has not shook off his catcher in 6 years?
Yeah.
Were you a guy that
No.
wouldn't shake you? Oh, so
I don't, I mean.
on that pitch, was
him-
that the pitch called, the fastball?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember? Okay.
Probably because if it comes down to 3-2, it's I definitely wasn't I had no problems throwing a 3-2 changeup, but sometimes in those situations where a hitter has to be thinking, it's not like the bases are loaded. If I walk him,
He's
okay,
liquefied another day.
I still have another chance.
Yeah.
It's more about
So-
location then.
Yeah, it's still being able to put the ball in a position to not get hurt.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to keep it on on the outside. I call it the circle.
And you're only throwing the pitches that you want to throw at that point in
Yeah,
time.
it's like you're talking about Sale. It's like him not shaking off. Wow, good for you. That says a lot about his ability to throw multiple pitches.
Or confidence in the pitches.
Anytime, he'll throw any pitch at any time. And if he walks a guy or whatever, he still has the ability to come back and strike out the next three like they're nobody's business. But I didn't shake a whole lot, but there's definitely times where as a player you get a feel for something. So if catcher calls, if I throw a changeup, it's a terrible changeup, and the catcher's like, oh my gosh, he doesn't have that today. He may put down a fastball. I'm like, no, I know what I did wrong. You make that quick adjustment. You throw another one, and then maybe throw another one. So not all the time did my pitching philosophy or my style and the catcher. I had no problem shaking. If I didn't like it, no, because when it comes down to it, when you're talking to press, what
You
you
threw the
think
pitch.
about that pitch, the last thing you want to do is like, I wish I would have thrown this instead.
Yeah.
I never wanted to have that. I'd rather get beat with my
I
best.
shouldn't have thrown the breaking ball.
Yeah. I mean, I got beat on way too many sliders in my career because it was my worst pitch. So
Share the feelings of the greatest comeback in the history of sports. All right, so you win Game 7 in New York City. Tell us what happened in the locker room. Obviously, we're going crazy here in Boston, but that had to be special, right? And you guys celebrated on the field, right?
yeah. Well, it's funny about that. Game 7, Embry comes in there, gets the last out. It's about a quarter-mile run from the Yankee bullpen into the into the infield. So finally get in there. The first thing I did, I went over and found Tito and grabbed Tito, and I told him, I was like, hey, that should have been me on the mound.
I was going to ask you, did you want it?
I was a little chapped at the time.
Were you?
Because I had never throughout my
that's
career
great.
I had never had that ability to be that guy.
Right.
I had never
Up to
been
that
on the
point,
mound
yeah.
to
Up to
be
that point.
that guy.
Right.
But you
And,
closed every game in St. Louis. In the
In
St.
St.
Louis series.
Yeah, in St.
The
Louis,
World
but-
Series, all 4 games.
Yeah.
So that's that football Texas mentality, right?
Yeah.
Stick your nose into every
Oh,
play.
I mean-
okay, I just broke my arm, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, what
That's
did
where it
Tito
came from?
say? I know.
I don't remember. Knowing Tito is probably
probably
some
called-
little,
right.
smart,
Some dig.
Yeah.
some little remark, but we'll get you there.
Out of the corner of his mouth there, yeah.
Well, he did get you there. So there was a hangover in Game 1 of the World Series, would you say? I mean, lots of errors. It ended up being
was
a
a weird
10-8 game. Was it a difficult transition to all of a sudden start playing a series against this generic Cardinals team that you guys knew nothing about?
A little bit. I remember coming in and Game 1 of that series, and I knew I wasn't very sharp. But we had a couple mistakes in the field.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy cow, man! We're gonna have to come up with something here.
Yeah.
But that was one of those things where we were able to to battle through it. We got that win. I think it was in extra innings.
No, 10-8. Bellhorn hit the 2-run homer, and then you finished the game.
Yeah.
Keith Folk finished the game, just so you know.
But that's one of those things where the innings kind of kind of
Could
blur
have been
together.
ninth, could have been the 10th.
But
Because you pitched all 4 games of the World Series also.
But I just couldn't remember the situation. But yeah, we managed to scratch that one out, and and being the professionals that we were, it's like, all right, let's not do this, because obviously the situations that had come before us,
Sure.
we know that it doesn't take much to
Go the other way,
get this town just on pins and needles. So you know what, we came back for the next the next 3 games, 1 game here and 2 games there, and they went quick. in my
How
opinion.
aware of the city being on pins and needles were you guys? I mean, you must. It was. You couldn't hide from that.
Well, first of all, you knew what it was like, 'cause I remember coming back in here the years before when Chicago, back in the day, there wasn't a game that went by where you didn't hear at least one Yankee Suck chant. Even though you weren't playing the Yankees, you were going to hear that chant. You were going to hear that chant every night. And and so especially being the bullpen, so you're out there in the bleachers, and you're always surrounded by fans.
You're surrounded out there. Right. You're more in contact with fans in the bullpen than any player on the team does.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have TVs. We knew what the history was, and so it's you try to put it out, but you're well aware what the situation is. So you just go out there and you do your job, and trust me. And after it was all over,
All right, so 4th game 4, the 9th inning, it's 3-0, and the guy who's pitched all the games and deserves to close out something, Keith Folk, comes to the mound. Is it business as usual, or obviously you can understand the situation?
No, it's definitely business as usual.
It is,
because it's just another game. It's you have to complete the task. They don't hand stuff out to you just for showing up.
It is a big opportunity.
No participation medals for that.
Right.
So, but I remember going in. I remember kind of looking at the guys as I was running in, like, seeing a little bit, boys. Go busting in there, and I think Pujols, I think he let off the inning, hit a missile right between my legs. I tried to get the pads together, didn't work. So, fast forward to Renteria coming up there, and the pitch I made to him wasn't even a very good pitch. And I was, usually when you throw a pitch as a pitcher, if there's probably going to be action on it.
Yeah.
And it's like I threw it, and it's like, oh, he's not swinging at that. And all of a sudden he just waved at it. And as soon as he hit it, like, I swear I jumped, because I was like, this ball's not getting by me. So I jump, and I don't even really catch the ball. I kind of snow cone it, and then gathered up, and I just remember taking off the first, and I went to throw once, and I'm like, no, we're gonna get
closer.
we're gonna get a few feet closer. And I just remember as soon as I tossed the ball, it was like
That's
that
it.
just, oh my. And
Did
I
you-
remember turning to Jason, it was just like, like the world just fell off the shoulders. It was
That's
the
amazing.
most incredible thing ever.
Yeah, ever will be either. 2004.
In the locker room celebration,
Yeah, the locker room
Surreal, right?
celebration was awesome. Again, hockey reference. I did my best. Stanley Cup. I poured the beer on the trophy, trying to drink it off the trophy.
you really are.
But the one thing about it, we're in St. Louis. Busch Stadium, home of Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
Ran out of beer.
Come on.
Really?
Ran out of beer. And it was like
That's
to the
incredible.
point everybody's like, "Oh man, did you get drunk? Did you guys do this?" It's like, no, we couldn't.
There wasn't anything left to
It got
drink.
to the point where it's like, hey, there's no more beer left. Champagne's all gone. I guess we'll just
get dressed and
cleaned
go.
up
Go back to the hotel.
No, we're just
That's
back on the
unbelievable.
plane home.
I honestly, one of the most the image I'll never forget is when after you guys land on the bus back to Fenway in the wee small hours when you guys are going through town, and there's people lined up all over the place, aren't there?
Yeah.
In the morning, right? Did you
the
guys get
morning.
in the morning? Right?
I wasn't a part of that one. I had a car pick me up at the airport.
Oh, cut it out.
Because there was other stuff that was going on in my life that wasn't so fun. So
I got it.
I had my oldest son now, but he was 11 months at the time, so I had him and my soon-to-be ex-wife were with me.
Oh,
So,
all right.
and
So
at
you
that
had
point, I
things
was
to take care of.
honestly, I was so exhausted
Yeah.
that I'm like, God, I don't want to go all the way back to the field, have to fight all the way back home. I'm like,
Interesting.
just give me a car, take me back to the Ritz, and
let me get on with my life.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well,
And
I just wanted to go to bed.
And
I was tired.
Did you guys get
Wow.
back? Do you get back together again as a team after that, or do guys really just disperse?
Well, obviously we had the parade.
Yeah, tell us about the parade.
And the parade. The parade was, winning the World Series was incredible. The parade was a very special moment.
Yeah.
It's because like I said before, it wasn't the best time off the field. I almost didn't go. I was sitting at the house. I'm like, because they were doing all those interviews and stuff beforehand. I was supposed to do it. I'm like, I want no part of it. Sitting in my locker, just pouting. Anyways, get on the duck boat. We start rolling out. You're out there, and all of a sudden, there's a few people here, a few people there, and it's like a wedge. The crowds just get bigger and bigger. Next thing you know, I'm up on top. I'm like waving, and everybody's telling you their stories and all that, and 4 or 5 million people. 4 or 5 hours later, it was truly one of the most incredible moments of my life. And hearing everybody thanking you for for grandmothers and grandfathers and brothers and sisters and parents that aren't here anymore, and
Yeah.
all the I don't want to say parties, but people going out to the cemeteries
Yeah.
to be
Dude,
with
you
their
get
loved
chills
ones
thinking
and
about
stuff.
it. Yeah.
And those stories, they still gives me the chills even thinking about it. But that's what makes this New England and Sox Nation, and really for all the sports, that's what makes it so special is the connection to the sports and to the players.
Right.
Is what makes everybody so passionate, which isn't always a good thing to deal with, but that passion is what makes this region so incredible.
And is that one of the reasons why you moved back? Like, what's your your relationship with Boston was forged in the biggest moment in Boston sports
Yeah.
history? Is
I
that
mean,
what draws you back?
Heck, I made the decision to walk away in 06, which I should have stayed around. Probably could have got another cheap ring.
You would have made a little more money, too.
Yeah, but at the time, the relationship was strained. I had my stuff off the field. My body was hurting.
Yeah.
So I ended up walking away. Ended up signing with Cleveland. Ended up signing a $5 million deal there that I basically called and told him, hey, I can't make it. So I ended up retiring in 07.
Yeah.
I got surgery on my my arm, got that fixed. Came back, played one more year, but didn't really have a whole lot to do with Boston for a number of years. I didn't watch baseball for probably 5 years.
I've heard you say that you really don't like baseball all that much.
Back in the day, yeah, I wasn't. I mean, baseball's fun. I love to pitch, no doubt about it. I love to pitch, but there's so much downtime. As
He's a
player.
hockey fan.
Yeah. So you like
Yeah.
He's a hockey fan.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't like to sit around.
Yeah.
And
Would you have preferred to have played professional football or than baseball?
well,
if you had your brothers?
if you're asking me this,
As a teenager.
25 years ago,
Yeah.
I definitely want to be a football player.
Yeah.
There's nothing like going out and squaring somebody up. I don't know about in that helmet,
Yeah, right.
but
What more glory in Texas
Yeah.
than being the football star?
I mean, yeah, that's.
Well, wait a minute. To the last pitch of the first World Series.
I know.
Come on,
More glory.
But I don't know. There's more glory in
think-
being a football star in Texas.
But it's one of those things though. Coming out of high school, I had one offer to go to college to play baseball, and that was from a Galveston college, was a startup program. I had one offer to go to college to play baseball, and unfortunately, my grades weren't good enough to go play football. D1. So I was like, I didn't want to go to summer school, so I took the easy way out, and I'm like, I guess I'll go play baseball.
Do you think the workload you had in the 2004 playoffs may have affected your career moving forward?
No, because the stuff that's wrong with my knees is more genetic. The knee joints all cratered up and junked up, so the workload had nothing to do with it. My knees had been bothering me. It started in 02. Right. 2003, I basically stopped running. 2004 went through. We were supposed to operate on my knees after the season 04. All the hype, it got pushed off. Physicals, first day of 2005 spring training, the doctor says, I don't want you playing. Yeah. I think we should operate them on now and get it done and try and get you back. And I was so prideful and so happy with baseball, so low from off the field stuff. I'm like, I need baseball right now. I couldn't imagine sitting on the DL by myself going through all this
rehab.
I'm like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have to stay in Fort Myers, right? Isn't that where they stick all the rehab guys? Or can you rehab with the Red Sox?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I chose to play, which was by far the worst mistake of my life.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
I mean,
and
you
I
did
walked away
something-
from $5 million.
Well, I was going to say, you
Yeah.
did something that I mean, I can count on one hand in 45 years of following professional sports, guys who walked away and did what you did, which is instead of taking your money and going on the DL, I'm walking away.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
it's amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't do that to them. They gave me an opportunity, even though I went in there past all the physicals and stuff. I couldn't throw more than 2-3 days at a time, and my elbow just blew up. I had a big bone spur that was, that started because of my knees. 'Cause I had to change the way I pitched and kept hyperextending my elbow, and so.
So what's Keith Folk doing right now? So you work for the Red Sox.
I'm sitting here with you guys, and I'm also I'm a bullpen advisor for the player development side of the Red Sox, which is the minor league. So I rotate between Pawtucket, Portland, and Salem, Virginia, working with the bullpen guys.
So is there potentially a major league bullpen position open possibly for next year?
bullpen
or-
coach.
I have no idea. That's not on my radar.
Because I know it'd be great in Nesson. Right? If
certainly
Nesson's
would be.
watching, and I know you guys watch,
Yeah,
Keith
you can be
Folk would,
the ex-understudy.
yeah, Keith Folk would be a huge
certainly would
asset
be.
for you guys, and on pregame, postgame, color, everything. So is that something you might be interested in doing in the future, teaching?
I have no idea. I enjoy working with the guys in minor leagues. It's if you'd have told me 20 years ago, hey, you're gonna be a coach one day, enjoy it, I'd be like, you're crazy.
Right.
No chance. But the gig I have now is a part-time job, so I'm out 15 days a month. I go out, see my guys, work with them, and then I would go back home, see my kids. But I don't know if the big league, having a big league job is different. Having a full-time job is different.
Right.
I kind of quit baseball because I didn't like
Yeah.
that. And being a player pays a lot more than being a coach.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I enjoy my little part-time gig, and it's funny. Over the last couple of years, you develop a lot of, pretty strong relationships with
kids
with
coming
my guys. I mean, so it's like a father-son. I love being that mentor for them, and we have a lot of, you're seeing a lot of the guys now in the big leagues. The Maddoxes and Heath Hembry was there a little bit, but
Boyer.
Boyer, he's got experience, but Robbie Scott,
Yeah.
and we have a few more coming up behind them that you'll see in Boston in the probably next year or two, that we have some strong minor league arms that I'm proud to be associated with the development side of it. And once they get to the big leagues, and you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
My final question: Robbie Scott, obviously playing the independent league. Your last professional job was playing with what? The Newark Bears.
Oh, the
Tell us a little bit about independent baseball in Newark.
Yeah, that's
Get to the pack. Must
Wait, who
sound
was
that was-
Jose Canseco wasn't any part of that league, was he?
no, he was not on there, but we have Tim Raines is our coach. We had
Rock Reigns.
Yeah, we had 6 or 7 former, big league players on that team, so we had a pretty good team. But that was the last ditch effort to see if I could still do it, if I wanted to still do it. Towards I was only there for 2.5 months. Towards that end of that, I was a starter.
Was that right?
Really?
I had a couple offers to go play, sign AAA contracts that I kind of wish I would have done, but I didn't. But it just got to a point where it's like, you know what? Hey man, it's been nice.
Yeah.
We'll see you down the road.
That's
Well, maybe
great.
there's a book that's coming out. You
Oh,
got two
trust
and a half
me, there's
months.
11 years to the majors is a definite accomplishment.
There is at some point I would like to put something together. like I tell everybody, it'll be the saddest, funniest thing you've ever seen.
That's great.
Well, we
Well,
can't
we're
wait.
glad you're back.
Yeah, well, we hope to
really
have
glad
Keith
you're
back
back.
on. We want to thank Keith Folk for being on the show. Of course, thank the boys. Thank everyone behind the scenes. Of course, the lovely and talented Adrian and handsome Todd. Please check us out on our website at thegrandstanders.com and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night. I'm Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night. The elephants are in town.
Here comes the circus.